Stoicism is changing.
You know, I've been reading Marcus Aurelius' Meditations.
Wow.
I listened to it in the sauna. It's really intense because you're thinking these are the writings, the direct writings that we have from a guy who lived 2,000 years ago and was running Rome.
Stoicism.
Stoicism is literally the opposite to toxic masculinity. And anyone that's even read the most basic Stoic text will know that Stoicism is the opposite of toxic masculinity. I was given a talk a couple weeks ago at Stanford University. This great guy, Justin, came up to me and he said, I'm trying to get people involved in this brand for calisthenics, but every time I try and get women involved, they say that, oh, isn't that Andrew Tate? Isn't that Stoicism and toxic masculinity? The thing is, it's frustrating because it just couldn't be further from that. By the way, if it's your first time here, I'm Sam, the Stoic teacher, philosophy and theology graduate from the University of Cambridge. Now have the pleasure of being an assistant head teacher in East London. And here we talk about ancient wisdom for modern times. Now, when I spoke to Justin, it got me thinking. I was like, how is it that people literally think Stoicism is the opposite of what it actually is? And actually, if you look at the dictionary definition, it does say Stoicism is literally about withholding your emotions and so on. And this is similar to how other ancient philosophies, if you hear the word, say, cynicism or even hedonism, you know, when they talk about hedonism nowadays, people just think of drinking lots of, alcohol and just enjoying yourself and just partying. But hedonism, in terms of the philosophy, didn't refer to that. And it's the same with Stoicism or cynicism even. And so in the modern day, what the word Stoic means is not the same as the ancient philosophy. And so it's really important that we separate the two. And this whole idea of toxic masculinity, of, Andrew Tate being a Stoic and all these other things, any of these broics who claim to be actual Stoics, if they even read, the most basic Stoic texts, they would quickly come across very clear examples of why Stoicism has nothing to do with toxic masculinity. So just as an example, the most basic Stoic research, you end up coming across Cato the Younger. So here are 5 reasons that Stoic has literally nothing to do with toxic masculinity, right? And by the end of this video, if you think otherwise, please let me know in the comments because, I'm presenting irrefutable evidence. 1. The most basic Stoic research, right? Anyone that looks into Stoicism will quickly come across this idea of Cato the Younger, a Roman figure who is like a hero for ancient Stoics who are writing. There's a story about how Cato the Younger, when he's fighting Julius Caesar, he literally cries and wails every single time he loses one of his soldiers in battle. Now, does that sound unemotional to you? Does that sound like these things of Andrew Tate talking about mental health not being real or crying not being something that men do? I mean, it's the opposite. It's the literal opposite. And Paddy Pimblett, after winning his fight, talked about how there's a stigma in the world that men can't talk and men can't cry and express their emotions. And Cato here, who's a Stoic hero, is literally crying and wailing openly in front of everyone because he's upset and he's expressing his grief and having an emotional release. So that's, one piece of evidence. Secondly, again, the most basic research. If you go into Google and you type searching, you type Stoicism, you'll come across Musonius Rufus very, very quickly. But I guarantee that not one of these broics who, claim to be Stoics will even know who Musonius Rufus is. These ones who say that Stoicism is all about repressing their emotions, or these ones who talk down to women on the basis of Stoicism, because Musonius Rufus stands as an example of someone writing 2,000 years ago who actively wrote about how women and men should both have access to Stoic philosophy and to learning and to education. This is a time where later on St. Paul would come and say that women shouldn't speak in the church, and you've got Musonius Rufus writing in ancient Rome talking about how women should, just as men, be learning Stoic philosophy and be learning how to improve oneself. And so to those women who are saying to Justin that, Stoicism doesn't welcome them, I implore you to please look into real Stoicism, because it really is helpful for everyone. By the way, this is a bonus point, number 3. Do you think that a system, a philosophical system that talks down to women or that advocates toxic masculinity would be the inspiration for the method of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the most common method for treating depression and anxiety in the UK, the most popular treatment, which is directly influenced by Epictetus, who influenced Aaron Beck, who then went into rational emotive behavioral therapy and the precursor to cognitive behavioral therapy and the cognitive theory of emotion and psychology. Now, do you think the philosophical system that led to that breakthrough is going to be something that preaches toxic masculinity? It doesn't, right? It's clearly an effective method for processing emotions, for well-being, and not just for men, for everyone. Point 4, Seneca literally writes, he says, live with a friend as if your thoughts were exposed to them. And that's a different translation, there's different wordings, but basically the gist of what he's saying is, be careful about who you let into your life as a friend, but once you do, he's basically saying be as open with them as you would with yourself. Again, I ask you, does that sound unemotional to you? Like, it's literally advocating, because this whole Broic idea of men stand alone and men don't cry and men just get on with it. I mean, Cato, Seneca, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is influenced by Stoicism, Musonius Rufus talking about, women being part of philosophy. All of those things immediately disprove that. They immediately disprove it. Like literally, you're all this evidence on one side and all you've got to make you believe that Stoicism about toxic masculinity is a clip of Andrew Tate saying he's a Stoic when he's not. Number 5. Stoicism is a cosmopolitan philosophy. Again, 5 minutes of Stoic research will show you this, and yet I bet the Broics won't know what the word is, and if they do, they think it's a cocktail or something. Cosmopolitanism. So there's this concept of these concentric circles. So there's these circles of Heracles, right? It's an ancient idea. And the Stoics take it, and this whole idea that basically we're all part of the same thing. So we have ourselves, we have our family, we have the city, we have the world, but the belief is that actually we should include everyone within our circle of care. And so Stoics genuinely believe that we should literally view others as part of our family, our circle. I mean, so some people compare this to how Muslims refer to each other as, say, brother or sister. There's this idea of this kind of global brotherhood. And with Stoics, they believe that all humans, they actually, this is predating Islam, but there's advice to basically say, refer to other humans as brother or as a sibling, and so that brings us closer to them. So a philosophy that's trying to bring everyone closer. Does that sound like what some of these kind of far-right manosphere people who talk about sending refugees out and all this other stuff, does that sound like something they'd agree with? Obviously not. This is essentially a philosophy that's preaching humanity as one. And just leading on to that from that, right? Last point. Marcus Aurelius, the most famous man in the world at the time, the Roman emperor, he writes this journal to himself, right, the Meditations. It's never intended for yours and my eyes, but he's literally writing to himself in order to kind of just reflect on philosophy and life and so on. Now he says at the start of book 2, he says, when you wake up in the morning, say to yourself, today I will meet malicious, grateful people who are going to try and bring me down. This is paraphrasing, by the way, but this is no fault of their own. It's not within my nature to hold that against them. We're like limbs of the same body. And so this whole idea, we're meant to work together, not against each other. So even these people who are malicious, Marcus Aurelius is telling himself, by the way, not me, he's literally writing to himself saying, don't be against them. We're literally one. And again, this message of unity, does that sound to you like these racist, far-right, misogynist Broics? Of course not. Of course, it's literally the opposite. So I've given you 6 irrefutable points today, right? So the next time someone says, oh, being stoic are you, when someone's just being emotionless, can you please correct them? And if you're one of those women who was worried about joining Justin's program because you think it's about self-development and stoicism, I implore you, please don't go away from the philosophy of stoicism, because some people are using the term incorrectly. Please don't go away from the philosophy that literally influenced and inspired Aaron Beck, the founder of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is the most common way we treat depression and anxiety. Because if there's something where people were writing 2,000 years ago that still is being used by our doctors today to treat mental health conditions, clearly they were onto something. And if you want to know what that something is, please check out some of my other videos on Intro to Stoicism. Stoicism completely helped me change my life by helping me lose over 100 pounds of weight. And if you're someone who is looking to lose weight, philosophy of Stoicism is something that can really, really help you. So you can check some of the links below if you're interested in that. In any case, I'll see you next time for some more ancient wisdom for modern times. Bye now.